and then I'll explain it. I just want to see your reaction first. Okay? From our perspective, we were talking about value, and we talked about moral relativity, and on atheism and naturalism, how actually everything is relative. And this is the prevailing philosophical position of most post-enlightenment, post-modernist philosophers like Nietzsche and Bertrand Russell and Jacques Derrida and others. Yeah, we'll come back a little bit. So in other words, moral relativity suggests that you make your own morality, right? You make your own purpose, you make your own morality. From an Islamic perspective, we say that obviously God, for us, the worst sin, the worst thing to do, worse than murder. Wait, what's going on? Worse than murder is this thing called shirk, and I'll tell you what it means. Shirk is the association of partners with God. Before I want to say something. I want to make a controversial statement first. Yeah, I'm going to make a controversial statement, a ridiculous statement, and then I'm going to explain the statement. Let's suppose that this is on Islamic theology. Yeah, you come out from planet Earth, and there was this imaginary button. Yes, but you're a Muslim. Let's say pretend you're a Muslim. There's an imaginary button. You press it, the whole Earth blows up and destroyed.
That's not a great button to have.
It's not a great button to have, right? Let's pretend that button exists. You go now, you're on the moon, on Mars, you go there, button, crazy button, press the button, everyone blows up. You would think that's the worst thing you can do to human beings. And it is. I mean, from an Islamic perspective, killing one person is like killing the whole of humanity, right? It says in the Quran, chapter 5, verse 32, that killing one person is like killing the whole of humanity, right? So murder is one of the high sins in Islam. It's not like we don't appreciate murder, we do appreciate it. But the ridiculous statement I wanted to make to you is as follows. Do you know that button that you press and the murder and all that stuff? If someone had pressed that button and killed everyone, and he was a Muslim, it's less severe than doing this thing called shirk. It's less severe. It's very severe. Very, very severe, no doubt. But it's less severe than doing this thing called shirk. What is shirk then? The question. I mean, what is shirk? What is this thing that you're talking about? You press that button. What is it? Okay, I'll tell you. Shirk is when you give the rights. We believe in God. God, the creator of the universe, the heavens and the earth, everything, yeah? The maintainer, the sustainer, etc. Shirk is when you give the rights of God to other than God. That's basically it. What are the rights of God? The rights of God from the Islamic perspective are as follows. First and foremost, the attributes of God, as we know, He's all powerful, all strong, all knowing, etc.
How can He be all those things? That's what I want my question about God to be.
I'll come to that. Can we put that into a footnote? Yeah, all right. How is a good question. I'll put that into a footnote. Please remind me of it. But let's presuppose He is all these things. He's all knowing, all powerful, all everything. Yeah, all powerful, all loving, all merciful, most merciful, etc. Yeah, not all everything. That's a bit of an exaggeration. All of those things that I just said. Most merciful, most all powerful, most wise, etc. Yeah. Now, yeah, omnipotent is all powerful, really. Yeah. Omnipotent means all powerful. Okay. Omnibenevolent, whatever. Okay. The question would be this, and I want you to remember that question I asked you before. What makes the difference between a tree and a human being? So why is it that if I cut down a tree now, most of humanity would say that that's less of a crime than cutting a human being into two? The reason why, your subjective reasoning, which I didn't disagree with, yeah, I agreed with it completely, was that the tree has the intrinsic values, yeah, that tree has are less superior than the intrinsic value that the human being has. The human being has a higher level of attributes, or the characteristics of the human being are superior to the tree. Therefore, the human being is being assigned more value by other human beings and is therefore more important than the tree. Okay? We say the following. What of an entity that has a value that cannot have a value higher than it? Let me say that one more time. What of an entity that has a value that basically I'm not going to use the word unlimited or infinite, but there cannot be a higher value than it. Yeah? I say the only possible relationship, and this is the Islamic thesis, the only possible relationship you can have with that particular entity is one of ultimate obedience, ultimate love, and ultimate fear. Let me say that one more time.
No one can beat the entity. No one's more powerful than the entity.
Nothing is exactly.
Disagree with it because it's the most powerful thing.
Exactly.
But
not only power, we said knowledge and wisdom. So all of your attributes that you have, as I'm sure you are, and you as well, very intelligent people, right? Very clever people, etc. All of those entities, all those characteristics that you have, now basically imagine that those characteristics were that you cannot get higher than them. Basically that you are the most powerful. There's no one can touch you, no one can beat you, no one knows more than you. You know, if we bring all of human beings, not forget about the speaker, sorry, I'm going to knock you out here. All of human beings, forget about Speaker's Corner, all of the human beings in the whole world, we put them together and we have some kind of apparatus, we have some kind of mechanism, we have some kind of way of putting all those human beings' intelligence together and aggregating all of that intelligence into one sum, yeah? All of those human beings would be closer to knowing nothing than they would be knowing everything. Can you imagine the level of ignorance we have? Can you imagine the level of ignorance we have? We are ignorant. There's too much going on in the universe. There are literally 2/3 of the undersea that we have not even explored yet. And this is planet Earth. Imagine the universe, right? That's human being. Now imagine an entity that has all knowledge. He can hear all. He's all seeing. That is an entity we're saying is untouchable in that sense, in that figurative sense, of course, yeah? Now, what we're saying is that the only possible relationship you can have with such an entity is one whereby you're submissive to that entity. You cannot have another. That is the most appropriate, in terms of appropriacy, that is the most appropriate relationship you can have with that entity. In the same way as you would find killing that child an egregious transgression of the human rights of that child. The case, because of the intrinsic characteristics of that child, we say is the same reason why shirk, association of partners with God, is the most egregious transgression or crime that anyone can make on anything. In other words, just like the child has rights, the creator has rights, yeah? So when someone realigns the appropriate relationship they should be having with the creator and they realign it to the creation, we say that that is the worst possible realignment.
But what happens on that day, billions and billions and billions of years' time, when we have literally seen everything, done everything, worked out everything, there's no illness, there's no... Human beings are perfect, we know everything. What happens to that entity then? What happens when we have all the knowledge and there's like, why should we strive to get there rather than obey someone that is there?
What I'm saying to you is this. That entity, if we presuppose its existence, it doesn't have an end, right? It continues. And we're saying that human being will never reach a point where it knows everything by virtue of its insignificance on the universe. Its placement on the universe is an insignificant placement. We will never be able to encompass all that which is around us. For that reason, we say that, look, when we're talking about that appropriate relationship, now we'll go back to our analogy, the ridiculous thing that we said, that I know to secular ears it sounds like the most ridiculous thing you could ever say. Not killing one child, killing all the children, not killing one human, killing all the humans. Press a button, you're on Mars, press one button, every human being blows up, the whole planet Earth is blown to smithereens, yeah? We're saying, for a Muslim to do that is one of the worst things you can possibly do, right? It's you know, you're going to hell, you know, how dare you do that? But that is not as bad as the person giving the rights of God to other than God. Why? Now you might say, what the hell are you talking about, my friend? What the hell are you saying? The reason why is because the aggregate value of all of those human beings on that planet Earth, as we've talked about value assignment, and this was a big theme of what we were talking about today, the aggregate value of all those human beings combined on that planet Earth doesn't even amount to a drop in the ocean compared to the value of God. Therefore, when we talk about God's value, inappropriacy when it comes to the rights of God has a more severe implication, has a deeper consequence, has a higher ramification. For that reason we say this. We say that the most appropriate relationship to have with an entity that is all powerful, all knowing, all hearing, etc., is that relationship of submission. That's what Islam actually means. Islam is submission to one God. And the biggest crime of humankind is to misappropriate that relationship and to assign the rights of God to other than God. That's the biggest crime. That's, from my perspective, the clearest thing I can say about the Islamic thesis. Do you get that? Now, let's bring out the footnote you were saying. How do we know that God is all powerful, all knowing, all hearing, etc.? How do we know that? I say this. Let's go back to the dependency, because we were talking about the baby on the incubator. We're talking about as well human being on a life machine, right? One theme that we will always come back to when we're talking about these issues is contingency, is dependency. Contingency is dependency, right? I say the following. In the realm that we live in, everything is contingent. Everything is dependent. In the realm that we live in, everything is dependent. In the universe, everything is dependent. Something is dependent upon something else. Give me an example of something other than that. Give me an example of one independent entity that lives within the universe and is with us now that we can point the finger at, empirically see and see. There's nothing, right? Everything in the universe is dependent upon something else. The universe, therefore, and before I'm accused by some atheist or someone of committing the folly of composition, because there is a fallacy called the folly of composition. This is not reasoning by composition. This is an inductive type argument, actually, if you think about it. Because I'm looking at things that I can empirically see. So this is inductive reasoning. I'm saying that here, the universe itself must be dependent. Especially if you presuppose a beginning to the universe, which is the prevailing theory in science. Okay. If that is the case, what is it dependent on? That's the question. And you continue going backwards. So it's dependent upon something else which is dependent. It requires an independent entity to start it all off. That's what it requires.
And your independent entity is Allah.
Forget about the word Allah. Allah in Arabic just means Al-Ilah. Al-Ilah just means the God. That's what, literally Allah just means the God.
So all God.
It's just an Arabic word. The Christians call God Allah. In Arabic, Christian Arabs, they call God Allah. Eli is very close to Allah. Eli, lema sabaqtani. You might have heard this in the Bible. You know, God, why have you forsaken me? Eli, lema sabaqtani. In Aramaic, Eli. The Aramaic Eli is very similar to the word Allah. Now the point is this. We're saying that there was an entity that came before the universe which is independent. We ask ourselves, what other attributes must this entity have had in order to bring rise to the universe, to cause the universe? Unless someone says, I don't believe in causation, which is something some people say, they throw all of the laws of logic out the window. Don't believe in causation, fine. Even if you don't believe in causation, what must this entity have had in order to allow for another entity, which that entity is dependent upon this entity, to exist? They must have had knowledge, no? When you look at the fine-tuning of the universe, and you look at all of the constants being completely finely tuned, all of these things must require knowledge. It must have had power, no? It must have had power, because if it didn't have power, it couldn't be interdependent. It couldn't be independent, sorry. It must have had a seeing ability and a hearing ability, no? Because how could it visualize, how could it sketch the plan, as it were, and bring it to existence? So the things that we were talking about, the attributes of God, are actually logically reasoned. They're not illogical. They're logically reasoned. Let me tell you something. Let me ask you something. Imagine now we're walking in Speaker's Corner. I'm being 100% serious. We're walking in the Speaker's Corner and we see a ball. Wait a minute, what do we see? We see a ball, a large ball, hovering. Okay, hovering in the middle here of speaker's corner. Middle, a ball, hovering ball. I say, where did that ball come from? What are you gonna say?
No idea.
No idea is fine. It's good. Fair enough. But are you gonna say, you know, that ball came from nothing? Would you say that? That ball came from nothing. You never say that, because we know that something cannot come from nothing. Okay, good. Are we gonna say that there were an infinite amount of balls, and this is just one of them? Does that sound like a reasonable conclusion? There was an infinite amount of balls and this is just one of them. Maybe you say no. You know? If I said, listen, the ball created itself, you're going to say it's not possible because you can't exist and not exist at the same time. So what you'd say about the ball, that the ball had a creator of some sorts. An intelligent creator of some sorts. Does that sound like the most reasonable conclusion? It does, doesn't it? Let me tell you something today. That ball is the universe. The universe that we live in is literally an expanding ball in space. Can you imagine? The universe we live in now is an expanding ball in space. The same options apply. The same exact options apply. So we say the ball of the universe, which is expanding, must have had a creator. Must have had an intelligent force behind it. We call that intelligent force Allah. We do, yeah? We don't say it's three in one entity. We call it just as one entity that created that ball. Does that make sense? Okay. Now the creator of that ball assigned purpose for everything inside of that ball, all right? And human beings, which he also created. He assigned purpose and gave them value. And he also gave the human being an ability to recognize the ball. To recognize him, sorry, not the ball. Yeah, an ability to recognize him. Then he reminded the human being. He reminded the human being using human beings, other human beings, sending a medium, which we call an angel. Wait a minute, isn't this fairy tales? Isn't this mythology? You're talking about angels now, my friend. No, hold on. Yes, it's a metaphysical reality. An angel is a metaphysical reality. Yeah? We believe it's a metaphysical construct, religious construct, which we can't see or touch or hear. But just because you can't see something, secular ears, once again, when you hear the words angels, I know how it feels. Yeah. When you hear the word angels or devils, I don't believe in that. Angels, no, man. We've already dispelled all of those kind of things in the Enlightenment period. Don't bring me back this angels and devils. No, hold on. I know you've heard this before.
Can we see
call them what you call them. They're angels, yeah? These angels, these mediums, communicated with selected human beings aforetime. We believe that connected with many human beings, all of which told the people the same message, which was to basically submit to the intelligence behind the creating of the ball. For the reason we talked about before. It's the most appropriate relationship we can have with that creator is to submit to them, that creator. That's the only relationship. And only then will you find peace and tranquility. Yeah? You will not find peace and tranquility doing your own thing or trying to find your own purpose. That is the message of the prophets, all of them. So we believe in Jesus, we believe in Abraham, we believe in Moses. The final prophet we believe is Muhammad, yeah, who came to the Arabs, but also to all of human beings. Yeah? Now does that make sense? Okay, so that's what we believe in. That's why we're Muslim, yeah? But it's not just that. It's not just the fact that we believe in that. We believe in that all of the prophets that came to their respective peoples came with two things. A message, which was the same message I've just told you now, and some kind of evidence base. And the evidence base is different depending on the prophet and depending on the customs of the people. So for example, Moses, he split the sea. We believe in this. Yeah, we believe that Moses split the sea. Jesus cured the dead, rose the dead with God's permission. He cured the blind with God's permission. We believe in those things. We don't disbelieve in those things. We don't believe that he was God or the Son of God. We don't believe that. Yeah, but we believe that he was the Messiah and that